Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, we've had I would say, an earth-shattering moment occur really hours before recording this, there's a leaked draft decision from the Supreme Court of the United States that indicates that the court has already voted to overturn the Roe versus Wade decision, legalizing a woman's right to an abortion. And there are just so many things that really come to mind, that our show deals with a lot in terms of communication, and it's really hard to ignore. And I don't know where this is going to go, but let's talk about it.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. It's I had when you mentioned it to me, I had already went to bed, so I didn't really hear about it. And so when you were telling me this morning, I was thinking to myself, okay, how do you be compassionate and empathetic to both sides of this equation? Because a lot of times in communication, we want to bring empathy, caring, compassion towards both points of view, because both points of view are fighting for two very, very different things. One is really allowing an individual to make a choice for themselves. This is my body. This is my pregnancy. I don't want to do this pregnancy for a multiple set of reasons. Okay. And then this other person saying, wait a minute. We all got here through this life thing. We really value life. We need to pay attention to and really engage life in a really, kind of healthy way. And hey, as soon as you get pregnant, that is a divine being that you are bringing into this world. And, my moralistic, my spirituality says that to be protected, that's got to be number one on the list. It's got to be number one on the list. So immediately we've got two different points of view to talk about, right? Tom, you and I do the best we can to talk through difficult ethical, moral values on this show. We do our best to bring both points of view, even though our points of view might be skewed in one direction. We do our best to step towards the middle, which is, how do you become an empathetic person to somebody, to a woman now that once enacted, she has to meet her need for choice in a different way by leaving the country or doing something illegal. That's what she's got to do. That is her new choice, that there's the law and the government is not going to support a person making a decision over their own body.
Well, and let's just have a point of clarity here. I mean, this decision doesn't make abortion illegal countrywide. It just overturned it as a constitutional right. So each state can decide on their own. We're sort of returning to the 1960s as it was, where the state of New York had it legal, other states. I think close to about half the states, as of now, it would be legal. But I mean, a lot of people who are desperate, a lot of women who live in deep south of Texas or Louisiana, Florida, whatever, are maybe not going to be able to afford to travel to New York or California or somewhere where they know they can get the care they need to have control over their own lives. There's going to be a financial barrier and you have a job. You can't take a week off to go travel to another state to get this done. I mean, it's really going to set women back from one perspective, a half a century here.
Well, I appreciate you putting that into perspective because we like to think that in our modern age that, hey, choice is, something that, we really value in the United States, except for pregnancy. It's kind of a weird way to have a nation to have duality, but guess what we have in our nation? We have a nation of duality. So you win this battle, but the question is that do they now lose the war on many other issues? Because the firestorm that may start or may not start from this issue is that, oh yeah, you're taking choices while I'm showing up to vote, because this is something that either I was really glad that I had went through, and if I didn't have that choice, my whole life would have been trapped to or stuck with or brought in that direction, that I would have been as a young person, a 20-year-old. I'm just picking something out of the middle of the list of something to empathize with. Gosh, I would have lost my choice, and that would have brought my life in a completely different direction. And the hard part about it is for men, for their part, we do our best to support women in their decisions, even though we might not agree with their decisions. And a lot of times we're supported that sometimes at the expense of our own choices, because many men are in that supportive place. Some men are not in that supportive place. Clearly, in this moment, men are not in the supportive place of going like, no, actually, we think we get to have a say so over, what that is. And now we have to see what that bigger impact is going to be. Is there women going to come out now to vote during the midterms now? And I think that there's a little bit of energy around that now.
And in fact,
even the 24 election.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I'd be very surprised if that wasn't a huge part of the motivation of whoever leaked this document from the Supreme Court, because had they not leaked it now at the very beginning of May, this decision would have come out in late June or July from the Supreme Court. That was the expectation.
Right.
So now they've got, at least 2 to 3 more months, right? May, June, 2+ more months for this thing to rally women and like-minded men around the country to realize how little control they have over their future unless they come out and vote.
Right.
So I'm sure that's a huge part of the motivation for why this is to whip up the Democrats, but women in general to take action. And it's pretty typical in a midterm election season like this is of 2022 for the party that holds the White House and maybe control of Congress, actually, in this case, it's all three, to not be motivated to come out and vote. And the opposition usually turns out in greater numbers. This may very well be a rallying cry that bucks that trend.
Yeah, I would see that as, something that we'll have to observe as it unfolds. I mean, it's something that we don't know, how the nation will go. and there are a lot of people that think from their belief structure that this is the way that should be, is that this is a moralistic vote on this issue. It's not, and we're going to let the states do that. We're going to let the states, every state gets to have whatever their moralistic decisions inside that state get to be for women's rights. Well, that just causes people to move, and if they can, or be suppressed, they can. I watched a long interview of the people that have exited Russia and moved to Georgia, all the Russians that have moved out of Russia and moved into Georgia because they were going like, I can't live in that country anymore. I can't live there. And the exodus. And many times the person in charge, the authoritarian, says, good riddance. You don't believe what I do. You don't believe the things I stand in. We don't want you here anymore because you have wrong thinking. You must be in agreement with blah, blah, blah. And they're making up, a negative message about the person that has left, instead of going like, you know what, they kind of have a right here. We need to provide some space for all different people. So there's two different paradigms that sit here. There's a thing called a domination paradigm, and there's a thing called a partnership paradigm. And when it's so interesting that this showed up here, is that I have this little book about choice that sits on my desk and has little quotes of, there are two different pages. One has one belief on it and another has another belief on it. That's the little book. And there's a little paragraph about it. What do you believe? What do you believe in it? And this is a great example of those two different things, is that there's a partnership paradigm. What does it mean to be in partnership with another human being? And then what does it mean to have a domination paradigm, which is there's a little bit of authority over another person. So for example, Tom, the partnership paradigm, there's a cooperation with others, even if you don't believe in what they believe in, is a part of the practice. They believe that the value of that relationship, that life matters, that we thrive together in relationship. It is more cooperative, collaborative, and we might disagree, but we're not necessarily going to kill each other. We're not actually going to be at odds with each other. So this kind of cooperation paradigm that sits around partnership, can really make a big difference. Well, the domination paradigm really sits in a very different place. It leaves around authority. So an authority, or authority over another person. I know what's best, and because I know what best, I'm making a decision for you. And that belief is that belief that power and sovereignty is granted to a few in order to create safety and order for all. So that's a little bit more like what we're seeing in Russia right now. We're not seeing a cooperative paradigm. We're seeing a power over, I'm in charge, I have sovereignty, I get to wipe out this other country or this other city. And all I got to do is wipe out the city because now I am safe from the invading hordes. This is one way to make it safe. I get to just wipe out that thing, all the people that live in it. And I don't care if I rebuild it at all, not even a little bit. And so that mindset asks that, as an authoritarian, that I'm aware without supervision, our well-being is threatened by self-seeking individualism. Tom, America is kind of built on rugged individualism, isn't it?
It is, and this domination paradigm is really, to me, the authoritarian playbook or authoritarian mantra, whereas the partnership paradigm, the cooperation, that's supposed to be a lot more what America is about. So it's very interesting. I having these opposing views on choice from your book. It's quite something. And I'll tell you, I really appreciate that. And it's, there's so many things that come to mind. I have to say, empathy is not the first one that comes to mind for me.
No, it doesn't. No, it's going to get you fired up. Yeah. I'm not empathizing with, that, for the last, for all the years that Roe v. Wade has been the law of the land, that people that believe that life's sacred and there is a spiritual and a moralistic reason why people should not have an abortion, they've been suffering over years. From their viewpoint, this is something that's wrong, and it's been very difficult for them to square choices. Now, as soon as you say to them, hey, listen, you're going to lose other choices too, they go, no, I'm not. Oh, it's never going to go that far. And it's like, wait a minute, didn't you see what just happened? Did you see happen to this other group? Well, there's other things that may, come in your direction too, which is, if you allow the domination paradigm to stay in place, it gives the power to the few over the power of the or of the needs of the many. As soon as you start taking votes away, as soon as you start to further redlining, as soon as you start doing these other things, it's really, really hard. And you may want to figure out a way to get a healthy version of that each side gets to win sometime, rather than, no, my way, my decisions, because it's in the greater good of things, is better than your. See, then you're not fostering individualism.
Agreed. And
very, very hard.
It is very hard, and it also really shines a light on some things that are pretty disheartening about the Supreme Court of the United States. That's not supposed to be a politically motivated body. Each of those conservative justices on the court, each of them, some more directly than others, but each of them in their own way, told the Senate when they were having their confirmation hearings that Roe versus Wade was settled law. And I just can't help but see that they lied to the Senate hearings. They lied to those senators to say that they understood that Roe versus Wade was settled law. I mean, the most recent one, Amy Coney Barrett, confirmed, said specifically that she's not been brought there just to the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade. That's not what she is planning to do, not her goal. And then it's one of the very first thing that she is a part of here as a sitting Supreme Court justice. And it also brings to mind, that to me, this is just open season on court precedent. There's now nothing I don't think we can consider to be settled law. And the Supreme Court is proving that it's just as political as any other branch of government.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. I mean, you and I got into discussion and you brought up that slavery as one of those things. It's like, every part of a country's development and or regression, because every country has those things, a development and opportunity and a regression. It's, the world, America, Hungary, Russia, we're struggling with what the word conservative means. We really kind of are. It's like conservative doesn't mean power over, that the need for the few get to make decisions over the need for the many. That's not what conservative means. But they're making it mean that because of, if I scare this person enough about their safety issues, they will hand over their power to me if I scare them enough. And you and I have talked many times on this, is that how certain forms of media is all about scaring people to vote and give up their power. They don't even know that they're giving up their individualism by voting that way. They just don't. It's like, if you vote this way, you give up your individualism. If you overturn an election, you are giving up your individualism, because you're saying one person gets to run the ship for their entire life. You're going to give that up. Oh yeah, it's much stabler that way, because then I don't have to talk about difficult issues because my guy's in charge. And there are 76% of Russians right now that believe that Putin is doing the right thing, because they're fighting a very difficult war over there, because the belief and the bias is in place that he can do no wrong. Why? Because they keep being told the same thing over and over again. Instead of, there are your fellow, a friendly country, a country that was friendly to you, that you shared history with, that you shared families with, or now there's a lot of death over there now. And you don't know about it yet, but you will over the next years. You don't know about it as it's going on. You're going to be pissed, but it's too late then, because the person that you love died because you believe this other guy. It's really, really hard. And America has these moments of reckoning. And this is a good example of the moment of reckoning.
I think it's going to be a big one, Bill. I think this one goes down in history, no matter what plays out from this point forward, as an absolute watershed moment in one way or another. It has to be. I mean, and others, historians, are likening it to the 1857 Dred Scott decision you mentioned, briefly, regarding slavery, that declared both Black Americans had no rights that a white man was bound to respect, and that Congress had no power to prohibit human enslavement in its territories, its states and territories. I mean, that was only 4 years or so before the Civil War broke out. I mean, this is a real, I think, it is a serious moment.
This is as big as, I think this is as big as that. The only thing that's different, there's one thing that's different, and this is probably where we can stick the landing on this particular podcast, is that the slavery piece was economic. There was an economic piece. The states were going like, don't mess with our economy of slavery. Don't mess with our economy.
Sure. And so what is this decision then? It's more moralistic? Is that the idea? Right. Or is it just power? Is it power over? There's
a power over. I'm going to create stability around something, and I can have the power, because this is the longer discussion about moralistic and who gets to make the rules, and we collectively get to make the rules. And there's a lot of things in this nation that we believe collectively one way, but the law is written in the other way. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that the majority does not agree upon.
Yeah.
But generally people respect that we can tolerate some of these things. I don't think this one is one that the nation tolerates, but that's just because I'm more individualistic and I don't want my choices taken away. And I most certainly don't want the choices taken away from women, or families or people. I don't want, that is not my thing.
I'm in agreement. And I think it's going to shine a light probably on a lot of ways that those choices may not exist in other areas. That's just that there hasn't been enough light shined on that. And this may be the beginning of the scales tipping in the other direction as we look back on this moment in history. But it'll be interesting, Bill. There's lots of different things to talk about and unpack more as we go forward here with more episodes.
I think so too. Yeah. Well, right. Good discussion, Tom. Well, thanks a million, and thanks everybody for listening, and feel free to leave comments and let us know what you think.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.